So today I'd like to talk to you about the subconscious mind. I talk about meditation a lot to anyone who will listen to me or tolerate me talking about meditation to them. I think society, at least Western society, hasn't quite figured out what it's all about. So I'm going to try and explain it to you using some graphics. So apologies, I try and look at the camera as much as possible, but I have to look at the screen so I can see what I'm drawing. Okay, so I'll go sideways. Here's the river of life. And this is birth. We start here, and this is death at the end. The riverbanks indicate you. And this, running through the middle, the water, I mean you are 80% water, so the analogy works quite nicely, is your life force. Now where is my poor preparation? Okay, so that's the life force flowing through. Now when you're raised with unconditional love, and you experience no traumas, which basically doesn't happen to anyone, there'll be no blockages, no rocks in your river, and the water will just flow freely and speedily down the river and towards the inevitable end. But that's obviously not what happens to most of us. So we're born, maybe we have a traumatic experience at birth. Caesarean section is not the most natural way of coming into the world in an operating theatre, being cut out of your mother. So that could be considered as like a bit of a traumatic event at the start. Then say maybe 2 weeks later you're at home and you're crying and you're left alone for an hour because your parents are asleep or something. I know that probably doesn't happen in many instances, but you as a young child without your rational developed mind perceives that you're at risk. Love is not available to you in that moment when you need something, and therefore you feel in danger. So that creates a bit of a block, and obviously that happens. We have lots of those little ones when we're young. Then maybe say one of your parents tells you off over here, but you don't think you've done anything wrong, so you don't deserve the telling off. And because you don't think you've done anything wrong, it makes you feel like you're not loved, and that makes you feel fearful, because the opposite of love is fear. Then maybe say you're at play school and someone steals your toy or pushes you over. Again, what's wrong with me? Why don't they like me? Then maybe something big happens, like your parents get divorced and one of the parents leaves. Like, why don't they love me? Especially when you're young. So this keeps going. Like, I've gone all the way almost to death here, which is not right. This is all early childhood stuff. Your subconscious mind, which dictates around 95% of your behaviour on a day-to-day basis, you're only 5% like consciously. Like at the moment, I'm conscious. When I sit working and take a sip from my tea, that's my subconscious. Or remembering how to write the alphabet. It's locked into your subconscious. So your subconscious is pretty goddamn powerful. It basically dictates 95% of your behaviour throughout the day. Driving a car, reacting to situations, and so it basically dictates how you see and experience your life. So big things can happen, like maybe we lose a loved one when we're young, and that can create a huge block, or maybe our parents give us up to adoption, or there's some sort of abuse or physical abuse that can create a huge bloody rock. And this is very detrimental, because you see what happens, like the more blocks you have, the more restricted your life force becomes. And your life force no longer flows freely through here because you have these blocks. Now the problem is like, why do these blocks exist? Because bad things happen all the time, or bad things. There's no such thing really as good and bad. But the problem we have in our society is that we tell people or we tell children especially, that being angry, being sad, like play nice, don't misbehave. especially like young boys. Young boys love to like rough and tumble and have a fight, and they're told not to do it, which is like a big suppression of their masculinity, which then it's just like any suppression leads to some sort of resistance. Okay, so I mean, look, that just goes on through life. Maybe someone breaks up with you, breaks your heart. Maybe you fail to get into the university that you want. Maybe you don't get the jobs that you want. And the more stuff the more rocks you accumulate in the early 7 years, the harder and the harder life's going to be, and the more rocks you're going to have down here. So, you know, like some of my friends flow very easily through life, and everything seems to just come to them very easily. For me, I've never felt that way. I've always felt like it's a bit of a grind. Okay, so I'm going to switch this on its head. Sticking with the water analogy, but no longer with the river. We're going to go with an iceberg. Okay, and so this above here is above the surface, and this below here is below the surface. This essentially is your subconscious. On a day-to-day basis, you're going to experience like feelings and emotions. It's really difficult to keep my head, you know, I get distracted by my own voice. I'm going to see what's going on. But on a day-to-day basis, we, you know, things will upset us or make us laugh, give us joy. It's not all bad. Like, so we'll experience a range of emotions just based on like being a human living on Earth, just having this like experience of life. And what happens is that we've got a society where it's perfectly acceptable to show like happiness and positivity and joy and love, but we'll get back to the element of love. But anything that's negative, like anger, sadness, like how many people are secret criers? How many people get angry and then the only time it ever comes out is when they're in their car, because it's like a safe space to like get angry and rage against the other driver who's cut you up. It's just like a completely illogical response. But that response of road rage is because we're not allowing ourselves to feel anger. And what happens when we don't allow ourselves to feel and express anger is that it literally gets stored as a negative energetic frequency within the body. And like you can go away and research that if you want, or you can just take my word for it for now, or you can like book a session with me and you'll soon realize how that is the truth. Because when we go into these deep states of meditation and start to look for these things, they start to appear, and it's pretty eye-opening. So what happens through day-to-day life, I'm just make sure this is actually recording. I think so. So what happens is, you know, we get noise, and some of us have a lot more noise than others. And so the people that have a shit ton of rocks at the start of their river, maybe like their parents just unhappy, or maybe like their parents weren't there. Like some people are very privileged, as in them come from a family with a lot of money, but because the parents are just busy and distracted and focused on God knows what else and not on their children, those kids, despite all the material wealth, feel very unloved, and so they're very insecure just as much as like a poor person can. Like poor people quite often will be more secure because their parents have got more time. So what happens is that, you know, that's almost unacceptable though, isn't it? It's like, you know, you've got all this material wealth, how dare you like have trauma? It's nonsense. But yeah, so the people that have a lot of rocks at the beginning tend to have a lot more noise above the surface, right? So much noise that they just cannot function. And so what they do is they inevitably take drugs. And we as a society go, oh look, you've had a really shit start to your life. Now you're taking drugs so that you can function and feel okay, and we're going to label you a criminal and like a disgusting scumbag. It's so messed up, it's unreal. So the rest of us have, you know, our normal iceberg. What happens is, because we suppress these negative emotions into here, this always rises back up again as soon as we get triggered by a belief that we have. And we'll come back to those in a bit. So we'll do things, and you know, we'll go for a run, or we'll go and get drunk with our friends, or you know, we'll have sex with a loved one, or just a random. We'll you know, we might take drugs as well. We might do a yoga class. We might meditate. We'll come back to meditation, and we'll do these things to just sort of clear the noise. But the problem is, it's all surface level. So you know, we feel good. Big smiley face, like life is good, just done a yoga class, la 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 la, feel wonderful. And then something happens because of the beliefs that we have formed, because of the rocks that are dropped in our river at the start that constrict our flow. These rocks quite often, nearly always, create some element of belief in us that we're not enough, and we're not worthy of love, or actually we're just like inherently bad, like we're not good people. Sorry, I'm really getting distracted by the thing. I'm trying to look at the camera. I'll get better at this. So because we have these beliefs, something comes along that almost confirms that belief to be true, and all that happens is we get triggered, right? So something comes along and we think, oh, that confirms that I'm not enough, that feels very uncomfortable, we get triggered, blah blah blah, you start to feel emotion, then it comes above the surface and all of a sudden you feel the noise, the mental noise. You know, some people have nightmares, some people just like ruminate for hours. You know, lots of people talk about their chattering brain that they can never shut up, and it's all being driven by these beliefs down here, like deep down in your subconscious. So you know, the noise comes back up, they get triggered, and they're like, what can they do? What can they do? Like, okay, I'm going to remove the source of the trigger. So, sorry, excuse me. So what that means when people say, oh, like I just remove the source of the trigger, what they're not doing is going into their subconscious and reprogramming the subconscious belief to believe they're okay. What they'll normally do is, like, if there's an irritating bastard on Instagram like me, they'll just unfollow, right? So I can't deal with that. That person makes me feel angry, or that person makes me feel guilty or whatever, so I'll just get rid of it. So they'll remove the trigger, but the problem is there's always another trigger. There's always another annoying person on Instagram or a loved one that says something, and then all of a sudden it comes back up and it comes up again. So you're in a constant battle, a constant battle to just like keep the calm above the surface. So people meditate, right? And you know, there's all these apps that say meditate and go quiet and go still, and what they do is they try to just remove this piece, most of those meditation apps. And if you work with like a skilled practitioner, they'll go deeper. So what we want to do, and this is what I'll do in a session with you if you ever decide that you're called to have one with me, is that we'll spend the first 5 minutes or so setting an intention, like what is it in your life that you want to resolve or like improve or change. And then I'll spend 5 minutes with you just like calming this noise, and we'll get rid of that. That will quieten down. Then I'll lead you into a bit of a guided state where we'll start looking for the stored energetic negative frequencies, the negative emotions, all the anger you've been suppressing, all the sadness. And you might sit there and think, I've got no anger and sadness. You'd be surprised. Guilt, shame, frustration, confusion, loneliness, numbness. Everyone's got something. Everyone has something. Even Lewis Hamilton probably has something. Like, there's a man who's like, dad just loves him unconditionally. You can see what that's done to his self-belief. He thinks he is the fucking bee's knees, the best. For me, I lived the last 36 years of my life doing this, right? So if you just forget the iceberg for a little bit. I believe inherently that I'm not good enough. Deep down in my subconscious. My conscious brain knows that I'm a great guy, but my subconscious can't believe it. So, but my subconscious drives 95% of my behaviour. So what I do, because of that belief, and this is so prevalent like in our society, is I go looking externally for reasons to find that I'm not that I am enough. So it's like chase a woman, or buy a new car, get a higher paid salary, buy a new like fancy shirt that makes me look good, spend a lot on a haircut, spend $30 on having a beard trim so it looks really sharp. I haven't shaved in like 3 weeks. Instagram posts to get likes to make you feel validated. All of this stuff is like going externally to look to stuff to make you feel okay, and it's all because of this belief. So what happens if you change this belief? If you change this belief to basically say that I am amazing, I'm fantastic, I am, Ram Dass, like spiritual guru who passed away recently, said I am loving awareness. Like if you get to that state that he did, which is an enlightenment essentially, I am loving awareness, that's all I am, an awareness of consciousness. Like how on earth can you need anything outside of the realm of that. So when you believe yourself to be amazing and great, and you all are amazing and great, you've just got all of this noise in the iceberg above that's quieting that, and some of you will have a lot less noise. Feel very grateful of that, and like take a little moment to feel some empathy towards the people that don't have that just have a lot of noise, and you'll start to see where their behavior comes from. But if you get to the point where you're just like, yeah, I love myself, I know that I'm enough, I'm great, you know, like life comes with challenges, and those challenges are just opportunities to grow and lessons to learn from. All of a sudden, the dynamic changes. You're going out, but you're not looking for love. You're sending it outwards. Like abundantly. There is no limit. There is no restriction on love. Like, it is infinite. It is everywhere. It is the energetic frequency of the universe. It is the universe. So what happens, you know, everyone knows this. Someone who's very like confident and outgoing, it's like the law of attraction stuff. But you start sending love out, and love eventually, it may take a while, because at the moment I'm not getting much love coming back, because I've only just started saying this stuff and it's confronting. At the moment I'm a trigger. And you know, that's something for me to work with. That's a lesson for me to learn, and how I modify my behavior in terms of delivering that message, and like being myself, letting my light shine out. Because I assure you, like negative energy coming towards me now doesn't really have much of an impact at all. It's because I've got so much coming out, it just repels it. But if you send love out, then law of attraction comes back in. So that's how it works. So what do you do? So like people, there you go. There's the beliefs again, there's the noise above. So I think what a lot of people do is they'll meditate, or they'll find ways to soothe themselves with booze or sex or whatever, and they'll get rid of that, and then this stuff will always come back. And it may get to a point where you like feel so frustrated and you've had enough of this that you go and see a therapist or a hypnotherapist. The problem with both of them, in my experience, having seen both, is that they do not create an environment for you to physically feel and process out negative emotions, negatively charged emotions. And you know, I've seen a few, and they don't focus in enough on it. So if you have a session with me, this is what it looks like. 5 minutes, calming, you know, just talk you through a few things and get you into a calm state of being. Some people struggle with that, some people slip straight into it. Then we start to find, there'll often be a memory associated, but sooner or later fear will arise in the gut, or sadness in the heart, or like shame in the shoulders. People quite often like feel a lot of shame around their shoulders. And there's a few things that I can do that can just help you to allow you to sort of experience and express those emotions that could have been trapped for decades. And once they're gone, they're just frequencies. They don't stay. It's a bit like, you know, you find something funny and you laugh and enjoy that moment. That moment is then complete. You've expressed that emotion. You don't then like carry on holding a laughter inside of you. But because we've got this society where it says it's unacceptable, that's what happens. So, you know, sometimes this happens in a first session. We get rid of this, and then we get pretty good at like getting rid of this. Depends on how much of this you have. Like sometimes it might need a few more. I've had 7 sessions, and it's helped me immensely. But you clear this noise, and then I'm able to just do a few pretty basic things to make you realise that these beliefs are faulty and incorrect. And because the noise has gone, we're into your subconscious. It's accessible. This is what hypnosis is, hypnotherapy is. And we can reprogram it, and you'll start to believe that you are enough, and that you are loved and loving. And as soon as you reach that state of point, that state of play in your subconscious, which drives 95% of your behavior, life will change massively, man. Like huge seismic shifts in your appreciation for like how the world works and how you work. And what I see at the moment with this COVID situation is that this COVID-19 situation is that people are carrying so much of this stuff inside the, my drawing's now a mess, but the stuff below the surface, negative energy, that when a situation like this occurs, they have no capacity to handle it. And so it's like, what do? You just shut down, because you can't face any more anger or fear or sadness, because you don't know how to deal with it. Like, you just haven't been taught how to deal with it. So that's what I can offer. I can teach you how to deal with it, and you don't need to have like endless ongoing sessions with me. It definitely helps to have someone guide you, but literally within one session you can learn how to do this for yourself, how to take a moment to go and lay down on the sofa and close your eyes and tune in and like process the negative emotions, so that you're not carrying them into the next day. So I advertise guided meditations, but it's more than that. It's not like tuning into a meditation app and someone saying, focusing on your breath. I don't really do any of that focusing in on the breath stuff. But it took me many years of fiddling around and fumbling around in the dark trying to work out what meditation is and what it's for. And this is what it's for. Like, it's there to enable you to eventually find the way to feel nothing but love and light inside of yourself, so that you have to process anger and fear, but eventually you get to a point where all of the anger and fear stored inside of you is gone, and then you're less likely to be affected by other people's anger and fear. And that, my friends, is what we call peace. And in this time right now, that's what we all need. Who wants to have war when you can have peace? And the artists know this. Listen to Pink Floyd's lyrics, listen to David Gray's lyrics, Coldplay. They all sing from the same hymn sheet, just as Mozart and Beethoven did. So it's really easy. It's easy when you know how. It's like anything. It's like if you go to a pub quiz, it's like easy if you know the answer. But if you don't know the answer, then you're screwed. And all I'm saying is that there is someone here on the screen right in front of you now that has an answer that is well worth exploring. That's just my opinion, and I respect the fact that you don't have to listen to my opinion or not. But if you do know, if you do recognise some of this stuff within you, insecurity, or feeling like fear holds you back in life from achieving what it is that you want to achieve. Unless really you can say that you can walk down the high street with no clothes on, then everyone has some element of fear. But I think for the large majority, maybe we think we've got just enough of a handle on it, and we don't need to go diving into this world, and so we don't. And for some of society, they have so much stuff locked away, so much trauma, so much negative emotion trapped inside their body that they cannot function, and they turn to drugs, and they break and they lose their minds. And then there's a small subset, who can only just about function, but have enough about them to avoid falling into the devil's trap of drugs. But how many people medicate themselves with alcohol, especially in my native UK? I think if there's a need to drink yourself into a different state of consciousness, then that probably indicates that your sober state of consciousness is not completely on point. So if you want to address that, then reach out. It's I don't know how to do this on YouTube. I might try at some point in the future, but it's www.findyourbestform.com, or Find Your Best Form on Facebook, or find.your.best.form at Instagram. So take your pick. But if you go to the website findyourbestform.com, there's like 50 odd blogs of me charting my journey that led me to the point where I'm now able to help other people who may be struggling with some similar issues, and there's some information around what a session looks like and whatnot. So feel free to take a look. And if this doesn't call to you, then maybe like a close loved one, maybe you can see, they're struggling to get over a breakover, or failing to grieve properly for a lost one, and all manner of things, like it all comes down to, can you look at someone and say, is there an element of self-doubt in that person about them? Like, do they not back themselves 100%? Like, I'm still not backing myself 100%. I'm a work in progress, but I used to back myself like 5%, and now I'm 90%. And I think like the state of enlightenment is probably when you reach that 100%. And if you look at Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie, or the Buddha or Jesus, that's where they were at, 100% self-confidence. Probably Tony Robbins as well, but self-confident, but coming from a place of love. Okay, if they're narcissistic, egotistical, it's a very, very different thing. Very different thing. So that's it. I hope that's helped explain the process. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can contact me. There's a contact page on my website, and I look forward to hearing from you and hopefully helping you. And namaste. The light in me sees the light in you.